If you've been scrolling through endless lists of microscopes, watching side-by-side videos, and still feel a little stuck on which one actually makes sense for your lab or hobby, you're not alone. I've been in that exact spot trying to balance magnification power, the ability to capture what I see, and the fear of spending good money on a system that won't hold up when the slide tray hits the floor. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this video I'm going to break down the OMAX M834 PHB3 C90 1600X Digital Advanced Trinocular Phase Contrast Microscope, walk through the everyday scenarios that matter, and help you decide whether this is the tool that will actually improve your work or just another piece of glass you'll dust off once a year. First, let's talk about why this category can be confusing. Digital microscopes with phase contrast capability sit at a crossroads between pure optics and modern imaging. On paper they promise crisp Brightfield views, the ability to see transparent specimens without staining, and a built-in camera that streams straight to a laptop. What most reviews gloss over is how those promises translate into real-world workflow. For a biology teacher, the digital camera is a way to project live slides to a class without juggling a separate webcam. For a hobbyist who enjoys photographing tiny insects, it's the difference between a grainy snapshot and a clean, color-accurate image that can be shared online. The OMAX model tries to hit that sweet spot, but there are trade-offs that become obvious once you set it up on a bench and start moving slides around. One of the first practical things you'll notice is the trinocular head. The extra eyepiece port lets you attach a camera while still looking through the microscope, so you never have to stop and stare at a monitor while the specimen is still under the lens. That's a real time saver when you're teaching a class of 20 students. The built-in digital camera is a 5-megapixel sensor that outputs a decent 1080p video stream. I tested it by recording a live zebrafish embryo developing over a 10-minute window. The video held focus, the colors stayed true, and the frame rate stayed smooth enough that you could actually see the cilia beat. For most educational and hobbyist purposes, that level of imaging is more than sufficient, and you get the bonus of saving the footage directly to your computer without any extra adapters. The phase contrast capability is where the M834 really starts to shine, especially if you're working with specimens that are hard to stain. I ran a quick comparison between a plain water droplet containing pond plankton and the same sample after a standard iodine stain. In Brightfield, the plankton looked like faint silhouettes, but once I switched to the phase contrast condenser, the outlines popped out with a subtle halo that made the organism's structure instantly readable. That's the kind of practical advantage you only notice when you're actually trying to identify live, unstained cells in a classroom setting or when you're cataloging tiny insects for a citizen science project. Now, let's talk about ergonomics, because the best optics are useless if you can't comfortably adjust them. The OMAX includes a fairly generous interpupillary distance adjustment, which means you can line up the eyepieces for both narrow-eyed and wide-eyed users without a lot of strain. The focus knobs feel smooth and provide fine control, which is essential when you're hunting for that perfect focal plane on a moving specimen. The stage itself has a built-in upward stopper. That little piece of engineering is easy to miss on the spec sheet, but it protects both your objectives and your slides from being knocked off if you accidentally bump the stage while swapping samples. In my own setup, that stopper saved a 40 objective from a near miss when I was reaching for a slide at the back of the tray. Small details like that add up over months of use. On the downside, there are a few hidden trade-offs you need to weigh. The maximum magnification of 1600 sounds impressive, but remember that useful magnification is limited by the quality of the objective lenses and the camera sensor size. At the top end, the image can start to look grainy, especially if you try to zoom in digitally after capture. If you're a researcher who needs to resolve subcellular structures at 2000 or beyond, this model will feel cramped. Another practical concern is the weight. The trinocular head and the sturdy steel frame make the unit solid, but that also means you need a sturdy bench or a dedicated microscope stand. It isn't the kind of thing you'll want to move around a crowded lab on a whim. The power cable is also a bit stiff, which can be a nuisance if your workbench layout is tight. Who should actually consider buying this microscope? First, high school or undergraduate biology teachers who want a reliable phase contrast system that can also stream live video to a projector. The combination of a built-in camera and a sturdy stage stopper makes classroom demos smoother and reduces the risk of broken objectives during a busy lab period. Second, serious.